Hello, it's Tuesday the 14th of February 2017. Welcome to the Purple Army podcast in association with Goldstone Wealth Management. This is episode number 83. I am Ross McGregor, and joining me this week, Graeme Thompson and Raymond Monaghan. In this week's show we will discuss some of the hot topics. Is the Pitt, Beca and Hammond line the most potent in clan history? And would you stay with Rusty in nets for the game against Fife on Friday? We'll put someone or something in this week's penalty box and have another mugshot competition. First off though, we have a look back at the recent games. Tonight I'm delighted to be joined by Raymond Monaghan. How are you, Raymond?
I'm good, thanks, Ross.
And also Graeme Thompson. How are you, Graeme?
Very well, thank you, Ross.
Obviously we didn't have a podcast last week. There was only one game to talk about last week, so we kind of skipped it and gave ourselves a week off. That game was obviously against Belfast Giants, as everybody knows. We ran out 5-4 losers in that game. Goals from Hammond and Pitt put the clan 2-0 up. However, Mike Forney got a double and Garside made it 3-2 just before the break, going into the second. Rusty came in to start the second. Scott Pitt pulled one back before James Desmarais restored Belfast's lead to end the scoring in the second. Mike Hammond again got the clan equaliser before Forney completed his hat-trick with a game-winning goal less than 5 minutes from time. For what I remember of the game, Graeme, it was a kind of mixture of absolutely sublime forward play and comical defending. Does that pretty much for you remember?
Is that not the last 4 games you're talking about? No, maybe not. Yeah, that was kind of the start of the pattern of the games we're going to be talking about. I thought we did well. I think overall, Belfast are my tip for the champs, and if anything, I was maybe slightly disappointed in them, but you can never rule them out, and the fact that we gave up a 2-goal lead and let them back into it maybe wasn't a massive surprise in itself because of the defensive errors. Too many careless turnovers, too many individual errors, and just defensively not great, but offensively again, great, fantastic, good performance. Rusty coming in for the start of the second period. Zeke, whether it was an injury or whatever, certainly hadn't been at his best the previous game as well. So perhaps not a massive surprise, and good to let Rusty have a run out. But overall, it was a good game. I enjoyed the game. Just obviously a shame about the result. So I think up against the league champs elect, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, it wasn't a bad showing.
Yeah, as we've said, Raymond, you look at, especially, and we're going to talk about him later on, Scotty Pitt, Mike Hammond and Matt Beca, they're absolutely clicking, and you're watching them and it's an absolute joy, and at the other end you're watching likes of Baldwin fluffing a pass straight to a Giants player to give them the second goal, and you're just thinking, how can it go? If we actually had a defence that was clicking or even working half, we could be right up there, and it's been the story all season, although maybe the forwards haven't clicked right at the start. Is it maybe just a case we're still relying too heavily on that Pitt, Beca and Hammond line at the moment?
I don't really know. It's almost like we work one problem out and another kind of unravels. It's one of those mysteries, and it's so frustrating as well, because going into the game, if someone said, well, you'll lose by a goal, I would have taken that, but with the start we had, going 2 up, I was really disappointed in the end losing it, because Belfast looked on the ropes, and Stephen Murphy, normally pretty solid goalie, he looked there for a taking. He looked at times he couldn't stop a beach ball, and Graeme covered most of my thoughts on it. Just absolutely sublime forward play, and then just disastrous defending, and it's cost us dearly in that game. So on the paper, it was not a too bad result, but with how it played out, in the end, actually disappointed we didn't win it.
Yeah, I mean, the power play again, we had 6 opportunities, didn't convert any of them. And the last I looked, I think we were third in the power play, so I don't know if it's slipped or not. Maybe it has now because of that. But Belfast had 3 chances and they scored from one of them. And it was an absolute cracker from Desmarais on the power play. The winning goal as well, there's not much can be done about it. The kind of puck was pinging about in front of the crease and they got the touch, but for the Belfast point of view as well, I mean, I counted about 3 or 4 occasions that Scotty Pitt was left absolutely wide open on his own, either in the slot, high slot, or thereabouts in the house, and he scored 2 goals. And you're thinking, if you're looking at it from a Belfast point of view, it's got to be blown D coverage. You don't leave a guy like Scott Pitt wide open like that so many times if you can help it, Graeme, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the problem for us for the run-in for the season now is the fact that we rely so much on one line. So, if another team can shut down that top line of ours, then we're going to be in trouble. And there's no doubt that Giants were failing to do that, which is why it was such a close game. But I don't know. Like I said, I think Giants themselves were a bit disappointing. But it was just one of these games. They're always good encounters, and certainly I'm hoping that the Giants are our Gardner Conference main rivals for next season. But that's for another day, perhaps.
Maybe so. Going on to Gardner Conference rivals, we moved on to play the Manchester Storm. They had running out 4-1 winners, Mike Hammond and Craig Peacock. There's your secondary scoring, got the first period goals to settle the clan. De La Rovere got a debut goal to start the second. Zazinski pulled one back for the Storm in a breakaway, and Mike Hammond added a 4th in the third period to complete the scoring. Again, that game, I don't know, is because it was on a Wednesday night, but it just seemed a bit flat to me. Manchester really disappointed me. I think it's maybe been unfair to them, Raymond, but in my memory and my recollection, it's probably the least challenge they've put up in a game this season to us.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was close to a sort of routine victory that we've had all season. In saying that, Manchester, with their speed and their skill, they did cause some problems throughout the game, and I think probably the key moment for me was the second breakaway that Zajkowski saved, because that would have, I think, put us on the ropes again, and we seem quite fragile defensively as soon as the goals against column starts piling up. So I think he made a big save at a vital time, and we kind of kicked on from there, and it made it quite a routine victory in the end.
Yeah, it did seem to be kind of routine. It was quite clinical. I mean, you can't complain when, we're winning games 4-1. Maybe it was as much the fact that we played Manchester well, Graeme, as they maybe didn't play well. I mean, I like Omar Pasha, but, one kind of incident that springs to mind for me was in the first period he pushed Scott Pitt into Clement and then starts punching him for going into his goalie, and I just thought that's a bit crazy, And then in the third period there was an incident where a Storm player, I can't remember who it was, skates right across the front of the crease at speed, and he ended up hitting Z so hard he took his helmet off. Once again, and I've said this so many times on the podcast this year, not a reaction. That really disappoints me, What about yourself?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I made the point, I've talked about it a couple of times, but I think it was the previous game against Edinburgh where they were just taking liberties on our goalie. I think it was tip-off, ran him at one stage, and again there was no reaction, and Rosehill was on the ice at the time. So I don't know if this is maybe just a deliberate ploy just to try and dial it back a bit, because we have been picking up some silly penalties. And maybe, the guys have just been told, look, just try and keep as cool as you possibly can, because we have got 1 or 2 hotheads out there, as we know. And, sometimes you do have to manage that type of situation. But, yeah, I mean, coming back to the main point, at Storm, I was very disappointed, and I was expecting a good game against them. I like the Storm, and they've given us some really good games this season, although we, by and large, we've done very well against them. But they've also, they've gone to some Earhart away games and picked up very, very good results, and they're always capable of springing a surprise. But I think that night, and also a couple of 2 or 3 results that they've had since then, are proving that they're really going through a bit of a slump right now, probably when they least need it, when there's playoff spots still up for grabs and being fought over. So yeah, I was disappointed in them, but again, like you say, yeah, clinical by us, and okay, it wasn't the most exciting of games, but at this day and age, we'll take the 2 points quite gladly, won't we? So it was fine.
Absolutely. Moving on to Saturday night, a 7-5 victory over Edinburgh. It was a kind of frenzied final minute in the first period. Saw Jacob Johnson get a deflection off a Wharton's skate, I think it was, to put the Caps ahead, and Scott Pitt, you maybe thought that was us going in 1-0, but Scott Pitt managed to equalise before the end of the first. Goals from Cowick, Peacock again, and Hammond put Clan 4-1 ahead before Garrett Milan pulled one back for the Caps. Third period started when Schultz pulled Edinburgh to within one, and you kind of thought here we go again, but however Pitt and Hammond extended the lead before Milan got his second of the night. Mike Hammond got his hat-trick to make it 7-4 for the Clan, but Stahl got one more goal before the end to kind of cap off the scoring. You look at some of the goals here, the first Garrett Milan goals, he looked to me like he had his angles all wrong, which meant he couldn't quite scramble back across the net to make the save. And in his Milan's second goal, I mean, that kind of just shot for the point with no traffic in front of him, and he's beating him over his left shoulder. And I don't know, Ryan talked about the decision had already been made for Gary Russell to start against Coventry, but I don't know if these things were preying on his mind as well when that decision was made. It seemed as if, that Nz's been okay for me all season, but the last few games there's just been a few shakes, Raymond.
Yeah, as I've been saying elsewhere when folk have been criticising, i.e. it's just a goalie or it's just a D, and well, I think it goes hand in hand. The D and the goalie are responsible for how one another performs, and as much as I don't think Zajkowski's been accountable for a lot of it, it wasn't his best night on Saturday. I think, probably 3, even 4 of the goals, probably in another day he'd like to have those back, so it wasn't his greatest hour, shall we say, and I think it was the right decision just to take him at the firing line for at least a night and let him, recover psychologically and just kind of take a breather out of it. So, not his finest hour.
There was a lot of talk on social media that Ryan had thrown him under the bus in his interview after the game, but I didn't see it like that at all. And if you look logically at the fixtures, you'd played on Wednesday night, we played the Saturday night. It would have been, and given, I hate to say that the non-conference games aren't really meaning that much at the moment, but they don't, in the big scheme of things, the main thing for us is to win the conference, and that's going to determine where we finish, not where we finish in the league. Although, Graeme, I know you're going to say we want to finish high, we do. Yeah, we do, but looking at it from when you're going to give Rusty a game, surely the Coventry game was the right one to bring him in.
Yeah, why not? I like the idea, and I'm sure you're going to see big changes for next season because of what Belfast are doing. If Belfast do become the champs, as I was mentioning earlier, then a large part of that will be down to this 2-goalie system that they've got this season, where between Whistle and Murphy, they've got 2 good goaltenders who have been pretty solid right through the season, and you go with the hot glove, and when it's not happening, then you switch to the other. We know that Rusty's a great goalie. He's served us well so far, potentially the best backup goalie in the league, and why not? And I like the fact that Finner shows that he can show faith in him. We know Rusty quite well, and we know that Rusty's probably pretty unhappy at the fact that he's had to wait so long to get a decent chance, but Zeke has been playing okay during the course of the season, but the fact that, here we are, we're getting to crunch time, and like you say, whether it's down for the conference or however high up the league we can finish, it's time for Rusty to step up, and so far he's doing that, so I had no problem with the decision at all.
Yeah. And for me, the only difference between the Edinburgh game and the Belfast game in terms of how the forward lines were doing and what the defence was doing was that we managed to win that game. But it was pretty much the same story. It was watching absolutely breathtaking forward play in some places and just mind-blowing defence where they just didn't clear the puck, fluffing clearances, blowing coverages. Again, it's something that we keep going on about game after game, and it's getting a wee bit boring, and you kind of wonder, okay, we bought De La Rovere in, and you're thinking it was really a D-man we could have done with, but does that make you think they're going to move? Apparently, for what if you believe, it's not going to be long before the big chap's back again, and it looks as if they're going to put him back in the D, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I think you need to do something to shake things up, and whether it's you're able to get someone in before the deadline or a player you can shift into the D to try and see how it goes. And for how the experiment went at the start of the season, it seemed to go fine. So I think when Rosehill does come back, he'll be trying